saying, and that it was about, one or two guests or whatever. That's not what he posted. He was doing that deliberately to try and silence me. And I find that a really insidious thing too.
I agree with you. I've been called the same thing. I bring up George Soros, and suddenly I am an anti-Semite.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Candace Owens brings up the Jewish cabal, and nobody's going to say anything about that. I mean, it's so ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's so ridiculous.
It is. Glenn, great to talk to you as always.
Thank you.
Come back soon. I always really enjoy our conversations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm now joined by host of No Spin News on YouTube and author of new book Confronting Evil, Bill O'Reilly. Bill, great to have you back on Uncensored.
Yeah, I got to get a sweater like Beck. I got to get rid of this tie. So, and he's tanned. You notice that? He's tanned. I don't know what Beck is doing. I don't know if he's working as hard as he should work.
Let's, unfortunately, talk about more serious matters. What the hell is going on, Bill?
Well, what do you want to know? You want to know history? You want to know Western civilization? You want to know terrorism? I mean,
well, no, let me start. Well, first of all, just a direct question. Do you think Donald Trump was right to attack Iran with the bunker buster bombs?
Well, he did the right thing. History will unfold to see if it was the right strategy. I'm not hedging. The right thing is that if you have an enemy, and certainly Iran is America's enemy, and that enemy is saying we want to kill you, you don't get them in a position where they can kill you with a nuclear weapon. That's not real complicated. And throughout history, bellicose nations that have threatened other nations have always paid a price. So Iran's paying a price. Now, the problem is that Donald Trump is not widely accepted in the world. And whatever he does brings much more scrutiny than, say, a Barack Obama. But history shows that the American presidents have acted pretty much in accord to what Mr. Trump did.
Mm. Yeah, and certainly this idea that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tried to put out, that somehow this was unconstitutional and he'd gone without congressional approval. As I quickly pointed out to her, almost every decision to order airstrikes by an American president this century, certainly, has been done without pre-approval from Congress.
That's because you have a 60-day window, and that window is put in there because of the alacrity of some situations. You have to take care of them. You can't have a squabble publicly about whether you should get B-2s out of Missouri. I mean, then the enemy knows what you're doing. So look, I'm not in a business to attack people personally. I know there's a lot of people on the internet that do that, and they make a lot of money doing it. I don't do it. But Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is simply not smart enough to hold a position of responsibility in America. She's not.
Bill, as we're talking, there are reports that Iran has been attacking US bases in Qatar, in Doha, and others. It's still a little bit murky about what's exactly been going on. Iranian media says Iran's begun its mighty and victorious response to US strike at the weekend. Quote, Iran will not leave any attack on its territorial integrity, sovereignty, and national security unanswered under any circumstances. Qatar is saying, as we're talking, which is Monday night, no casualties from attack on US airbase, but it reserves the right to respond directly and in accordance with international law. There certainly have been widespread reports of explosions over Doha. So something is clearly going on here in terms of retaliation. How concerned are you about the potential for this to escalate into a much wider war?
I'm always concerned about that. Everybody should be. But what's a choice? So the mullahs have to save face. They're tottering now. If the army turns against them, they'll be overthrown. Persian people don't want them there, generally speaking. The economy's a mess. They're killers. Why would you want them to lead your nation? The only reason that they have power is because Iran's a police state. They'll pick you up and they'll put you in a camp, or they'll kill you if you dissent against the government. So they have a low-level capacity to fire some missiles at U.S. air bases. The Pentagon was certainly aware that probably would happen. And it's up to Donald Trump to respond. I hope he uses restraint. We could take them out, we being the United States, in what, 5 hours? All you got to do is knock out their ports and the people will starve to death. And Trump has not done that. Could have, didn't. And he's restrained Netanyahu in Israel. Trump, and I know that to be true. I have unique access to the Trump administration, as you may know. Trump has been a restraining voice on Netanyahu. So there are a lot of things in play. You got to figure that the mullahs are about as desperate as any human being could get at this point. They could go at any time, and they're trying to save face with some kind of reaction. That's not going to matter much.
In terms of how wide this could get, Donald Trump posted on Monday a response to the former Russian president, Medvedev. He said, "Did I hear former President Medvedev from Russia casually throwing around the M-word nuclear and saying that he and other countries would support nuclear warheads to Iran? Did he really say that? Or was it just a figment of my imagination? If he did say that, and if confirmed, please let me know immediately. The M-word should not be treated so casually. I guess that's why Putin's the boss." And I read what Medvedev said. It was quite interesting on two levels. One, that he was suggesting that now the fact that Iran has been developing nuclear weapons should be out in the open and discussed. In other words, it was some kind of secret that we now didn't have to pretend was a secret, which I thought was quite a significant omission, actually, by the Russians. But also just this casual threat that there are plenty of countries out there that will come along and supply Iran with nuclear weapons if necessary. What do you make of that? Should we take it seriously?
Well, you take everything the Russians say seriously because Putin's psychotic. And he threatened to use nukes in Ukraine. But any country that supplies nuclear weapons to Iran is going to be a pariah, have enormous sanctions slapped on them immediately, and will probably go bankrupt. So this is what the Russians do. I mean, they want to create havoc in the West. They say a whole bunch of stuff. I would be very surprised if any country, including Russia, supplies the mullahs with a nuclear weapon. That would be pretty much saying to the world, F you, and the world is going to reply to that.
What do you make, Bill, of you've been at the forefront of conservative media in America for decades. What do you make of the split in the conservative right in America now, where you've got a very MAGA-oriented, keep out of all these foreign engagements, all these foreign wars, we don't want any of this, America first, America first. And then you have other, possibly more pragmatic members of the conservative right who recognize that occasionally you do have to get involved, whether you want to or not. Where do you sit? Where do you sit, and what do you feel about the rising split, as seen by the Tucker Carlson Ted Cruz interview?
I'm not a conservative. I'm a registered independent, and I take positions that I believe are beneficial to the country, and I don't really care where they come from. So that's my profile, and that's why I've been successful for 50 years in this business. If a conservative does something ridiculous and foolish, I will absolutely say that. I don't root, I report. So right now, the vast majority of the American people support the bombing of Iran because Iran is an enemy. You briefly mentioned my upcoming book in September, Confronting Evil. Well, Ayatollah Khomeini and Putin are on the cover of that book, along with Adolf and Mao. And then there are 12 other heinous individuals inside. You're not in there, Morgan, so you missed the cut.
Wow, phew. Thank you, Bill.
But I don't really spend a lot of time on who's fighting who. Yes, it's amusing, but does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. Americans, most of them, are smart enough to make up their own minds. There's about 30% of Americans that are avid supporters of Donald Trump. Most Americans are traditional, and the Democratic Party has gone far left in this country, which is why they're getting hammered. It's not so much their policies, it's their attitude. Americans don't want trans this, and they just don't want it. It's never going to happen. But when you get into really who's a serious player, there are only a handful of people in the American culture that matter.